Hi, it's Tim Hagen from Progress Coaching, and welcome to another episode of Coaching Conversations. And I wanted to make you aware of something very cool that we're doing on a subscription basis, and we'll put a link in each one of our episodes. But every Wednesday, we're going to be doing what we call an audio podcast workshop. That workshop will be roughly about 14 to maybe 20 minutes per episode, with each month having a theme from a coaching model, using feedback strategically, to coaching self-awareness, and so on. So if you could look in the body or in the content description of each episode, and you will see a link where you can join this subscription. These are literally 4 workshops every month, teaching specific strategies to address a particular area of workplace coaching, as it relates, again, to things like awareness, motivation, teamwork, and what have you. Here's the cool thing. It's only $10 per month, and each month you will get a handout that we will follow along with. So we also give you a tool for you to take notes as we go through each episode. I hope you'll check it out. I had one of the greatest conversations the other day with the CEO of a company who's in the recruiting and talent strategy space, Jonathan Reynolds from Titus Talent Strategies. And he was sharing with me how the talent business is changing exponentially overnight with the pandemic crisis. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's interesting. So many organizations have A players and B players and C players. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, with unemployment going sky high right now, guess what's going to happen? The C players have become more vulnerable. The B players have to become A players. Yet organizations have to really make sure that their A players are happy and also open their minds to one fundamental fact. How can they recruit more A players? And I thought to myself, as I have very little experience in the recruiting business, what a great concept. Now, Jack Welch in his book talked about A players and B players and C players. And what Jonathan was alluding to is we have to make sure our A players are happy, especially during this time. And we also have to notify as well as coach B players to become A players. Now, when things are good and unemployment is low and business is great, sometimes we tend to ignore things. I want to share with you something that happened with 2 clients who don't even know each other. One was sales and one was management and leadership scenarios. And both parties called me and they were listening in on some Zoom calls. And now we're doing a lot more virtual coaching and virtual selling. And both called me furious based on what they heard. And I said to both leaders, I said, is this new to you or is this something that you chose to ignore? And they both agreed, yeah, it's probably something we chose to ignore. So I go back to my conversation with Jonathan and we talked a lot about how sometimes when things are good, we tend to kind of just roll with the punches. We don't tend to dive in and dissect what's going well, what's not going well in terms of performance, because the results are there. Results can be very misleading. And the other thing we tend to do, and it's human nature, we tend to look at our C players or our B players and we say, they're not performing like A players. We're going to focus on them. Yet our most marketable assets from a talent standpoint are our A players. And when Jonathan was teaching this to me, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. Now, on June 19th, we're doing an interview with Jonathan, and I would encourage you to attend. I'm not sure I've ever met anybody who has such a deep insight and, quite frankly, love for people, yet really specific strategy to what's going on and how much he's helped his company pivot to these times. So you would think about employment's going sky high. We don't have any recruiting needs. Recruiting's dead. Yet the opposite is true. I had never thought about that. There's going to be A players on the market. There's going to be more B players on the market. This presents an incredible opportunity for organizations. So again, on June 19th, we're going to be doing a webcast below this podcast audio lesson. Will be a link to that webcast, and I would encourage you to join us. I've known Jonathan for a while. He is a great interview, but great insight to the talent space and how you can now use recruiting as a strategic tool to really not help your company come out of this crisis, but to sprint out of it with a distinct advantage against your competition.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Coaching Conversations by Tim Hagen and Progress Coaching. Now, our company is always coming out with new and innovative solutions to help leaders coach their employees. And recently, we just created a new service called Coach to You, where leaders can pick and choose topics and assign 7 to 21 day programs for employees to learn and, more importantly, apply actions and then reflect and share what they're going to do going forward as a result of the learning. It's called Coach to You. We're literally bringing coaching to your employees. If you're intrigued, we'll have a link in each one of our episodes where you can get more information. And again, thank you so much for listening to another episode.